Shades of rain, business moves or the area hotels.
For defense, they're very territorial and are considered the most dangerous animal in Africa. And speaking of dangerous, over to the left are Nile crocodile. Make sure everyone is staying seated, friends. Make sure everyone in the back is staying seated. Nile crocodile can grow to be as long as a giraffe is. Very, very still underneath the water. Wait for their prey to get close enough to them, and then they snap. That's a lot more effective than chasing those animals down because they can only run about 10 miles an hour, whereas a lot of the other animals out here can run upwards of 30 miles an hour. But even 10 miles an hour is faster than a human can run. Now we're going to be heading out onto the savannah next, but before we go, I always like to pause and point out that tree on the right. That's a baobab tree. It's also known as an upside down tree because its branches kind of look like a root system. They only have leaves one season out of the year and can live to be 2,000 years old. And their trunks do store quite a bit of water. So when it gets dry out here, elephants like to gouge out the bark and they'll drink right from the trunk of the tree. That has happened pretty often. There isn't always a lot of water readily available out here. It is an African savanna. And speaking of, this beautiful landscape is the Africa that we're trying so hard to preserve. And it is home to a lot of different animals. I do see quite a few animals out here right now, but don't worry, we'll get nice and close to all of them and talk about them when we get there. Right at the bottom of the hill to the right, you'll see some white-bearded wildebeest. There's a whole herd of them out here. They're kind of in the bushes back there. Wildebeest in Afrikaans does mean wild beast, but they're also known as gnu, spelled G-N-U, and that mimics the sound that they make. It's kind of like a cow's moo, but a lot lower. Now, a lot of the animals that live out here are crepuscular, which means they are most active in the early morning and early evening. So the middle of the day, like this, when it's at its hottest out, is when they tend to just hang out in the shade, lie down, take naps. That way they don't overexert themselves with all the heat. So just keep your eyes wherever you see some shade. That's probably where you're going to see some animals. Oh yeah, and over to the left are some African wild dogs. Little orange and black and white spy animals. Now, as cute and cuddly as they look, they are really dangerous. They're one of the best hunters out here. No. No. Like I was saying, very dangerous predators. In fact, they are better hunters than lions, cheetahs, and hyenas combined. They hunt in packs to take down animals much larger than they are, and their bite can break bones, just like a Nile croc's accessory. If they want to eat something, they will. Probably best not to call attention to yourselves. Also over to the left, those coppery animals laying down are sable antelope. Sables are the emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve because they are so fiercely protective, and that's what we need to do. Protect these animals. We're driving in between some tall spars of dirt. These are termite mounds. They bake in the sun until they're as hard as cement, and then elephants like to use them as scratching posts. Once they're all worn down for the elephants, a smaller animal like the springbok will hop up on there and use them as lookouts for lions in the tall grass. On average, they're about 8 feet tall, but there have been some recorded that are 30 feet high in more tropical areas. As a reference, giraffe are around 20 feet tall, so that's a giraffe and a half. Now, giraffes are very social animals. They're usually found in a big group called a tower. There's a whole tower out here today, so we'll see a lot. You'll also see some little tan antelope with a white belly and a brown stripe. To the right, those are springbok. When springbok get scared, they jump into the air repeatedly, about 6 feet high, called pronking. They can also spring 13 feet forward and run 50 to 60 miles an hour, making them one of the top 10 fastest animals on the savannah. And those are all fully grown adult springbok. They only weigh up to 100 pounds. They're pretty cute. And then I do see another giraffe coming up here on the left. That's probably where the whole tower is. I bet you they're all going to be back in between those trees. Like I said, it's a big group of them out here always. And they are the tallest animal in the world, but do have the same amount of vertebrae in their necks as humans do. 7. They also have the highest blood pressure out of any animal, and their heart is 2 feet long and weighs 25 pounds. Yeah, there they all are. And you can see little baby giraffes in there too. There are 5 babies in this tower. The oldest is about 9 months old. The youngest is about 2 months old. And it's 4 girls and 1 boy. Make sure we're staying seated in the back. Siéntense, por favor. Make sure we're staying seated in the back, please, once again. Now over this way, it looks like there are a lot of knocked over trees and branches. That's a good sign. Elephants have come through. So keep your eyes out. We are going to be heading into elephant country. So let's just see who we can find. Yeah, there's one. That is a male. They tend to travel by themselves, whereas females will travel in a big herd with all the kids. Males are also a bit bigger than females are by about 2,000 to 4,000 pounds, and they're fully grown. And that animal up there is about 15,000 pounds. See if we can get another angle on him over here. I think it's just going to be the same angle. Yeah. Anyway, they do have one of the longest childhoods out of any animal, about 15 years before males will wander away or get kicked out of the herd. Sometimes they'll join up with a small bachelor group, but usually just travel around by themselves. The only animal with a longer childhood is a human. Sometimes they'll never leave. But yeah, right around age 15, the country to see if we can find any more. Those boys are never too far from all the girls. And we have found some red clay pits over here. It's probably why he's hanging around. They get a lot of the nutrients they need from this red clay. They use it kind of like a multivitamin and just supplement their diet whenever they need to. And it looks like there are a lot of tusk marks in the clay over here. A lot of footprints as well. So that might mean there is a herd around. Let's see if we can find any more. Now, elephants are the largest animal on land, but they do have very sensitive skin. And they can get sunburnt just like we can. So they use their trunks to pick up dirt, mud, clay, whatever they can find really, and they toss it on their back to act like a natural sunscreen for them. Their trunks are also really impressive. They have about 40,000 different muscles in them, so they're very agile and strong. They can also hold 5 gallons of water in them, whether it's to drink or to splash in themselves. And a group of elephants like this can be called a herd, but it can also be called a parade, just like in the Jungle Book. And you'll see a little baby elephant right there. She just turned 2 years old back in December, and she's already pretty close to 2,000 pounds. I know, doesn't look like it. She holds her weight well. And these are all African elephants, because we are, of course, in Africa. But another way you can tell is by looking at the shape of their ears. They're kind of shaped like the continent of Africa itself. And by flapping those ears, they can cool off by about 15 degrees. Pretty cool. And you may have heard that an elephant never forgets. That's pretty true. They have great memories. They can remember events, places, even elephants in different herds. They're very, very smart. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, coming up on the left are greater flamingo. They are the largest of all the flamingos, standing about 5 feet tall when they're fully grown. They're also the latest colored pink, but they're actually pretty gray in color when they're hatched. It takes them about a year to get that pink color, which they get from their diet of brine shrimp, which is high in beta-carotene. And a group of flamingo like this has a really fun name. It's called a flamboyance. But I would like to take a second to talk about poachers, because they're a really big threat out here, and they do target animals like elephants. You can save an entire species. Now, coming up on these hills to the left carefully, because cheetahs are really great at camouflaging, especially in backgrounds like this one. I do see two back there. They're really hard to see though. They're up on that farthest hill all the way back there. They're almost the exact same color and pattern as the ground, and they just kind of look like little spotted logs. They blend in so well. So yeah, all the way up there. While cheetahs are the fastest land mammal, they can reach speeds of 70 miles an hour, but they can only hold that speed for about 20 seconds. They can also go from 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds, and a group of cheetahs is called a coalition. Looks like there is wait, I know, they blend right in.
Straight ahead. Sleeping on the ground.
And cheetahs are the only large cat that hunts during the day, has non-retractable claws, and